Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1624.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about how inflation numbers came in lower than expected, which is a really good thing when we're hoping that interest rates will decline. The Consumer Price Index for January was at 2.4% from the same time a year ago, which was down 0.3 percentage points from December, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The cost of goods and services rose at a slower annual rate than expected in January, providing hope that the nagging U.S. inflation problem could be starting to ease. Excluding food and energy, the core CPI was up 2.5%, which is the lowest level since April of 2021. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones had been looking for an inflation rate of about 2.5% for both readings. On a monthly basis, the All Items Index was up a seasonally adjusted 0.2%, while core gained 0.3%, and the forecast had been 0.3% for both. Shelter costs rose 0.2% for the month, and although that category accounted for much of the CPI gain, it brought the annual increase down to 3%. Shelter makes up more than a third of the CPI calculation. Elsewhere, food prices increased 0.2%, as 5 of the 6 major grocery group categories posted gains. Energy fell 1.5%, while vehicle prices on used cars and trucks fell 1.8%, and new vehicles were up 0.1%. Airline fares were up 6.5%, while egg prices fell 7% and are now down 34% from the past year. Heather Long, chief economist at Navy Federal Credit Union, said, "This is great news on inflation. Inflation fell to the lowest level since May, and key items such as food, gas, and rent are cooling off. This will provide much-needed relief for middle-class and moderate-income families." Inflation is continuing to hold above the Fed's 2% annual target rate, and Fed officials continue to express concern about the labor market, which added only 15,000 jobs a month last year. Consumer spending held up fairly well last year, though it was unexpectedly flat heading into the holiday season. Economists had expected the tariffs to spark inflation, but the impact has been largely tilted toward select goods rather than a broader impact. The tariffs have had a clear impact on products such as furniture and appliances, but the key items in many family budgets are cooling off, Long added. With the conflicting economic signals, the Fed is widely expected to stay on hold until June, after a rate-cutting cycle that saw 3 reductions in the last part of 2025. The central bank is facing shifting dynamics this year with a rotating cast of regional presidents that seem tilted toward a more aggressive posture on fighting inflation, and a chair designate, Kevin Warsh, who is likely to push for lower rates. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC on Friday that he sees an investment boom acting as a tailwind while inflation gets back to the Fed's target in the middle of this year. He said, "We've got to get away from this idea that growth automatically has to be tampered down, because growth per se is not inflationary. It's growth that leaks into areas where there's not sufficient supply, and everything this administration is doing is creating more supply." The Fed does not use the CPI as its primary inflation measure. Instead, it more closely watches the Commerce Department's Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, and that will be released for December's reading on February 20th. But the lower-than-expected reading helped boost the outlook for Federal Reserve interest rate cuts in the futures market, and traders raised the odds for a reduction in June to about 83% chance of getting a rate cut, according to the CME's FedWatch tool. So it looks like a lot of the laser pointer is being pointed toward the middle of the year, with Treasury Secretary's comments and the possibility that inflation may continue to cool which may be why traders are predicting with an 83% chance of interest rates declining around June. So we'll continue to monitor the situation and report back to you as it unfolds. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available. And all of my podcasts are on my website at lindapjones.com/podcasts. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly newsletter for more wealth tips for your financial freedom. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.